I think that a lot of people want to start painting, but they don't really know where to begin. There are a lot of guides and tutorials online, and some of them are way too confusing or too advanced. So I wanted to share with you how I started painting and what I believe to be important when you want to pick up painting as a hobby. I am still a beginner, and I think I'll continue to be that for some time, but my take might help you save some money and time and perhaps have some more fun with it. First, I'm going to start with the supplies, and we all know that you kind of need stuff to start painting, but you don't need a lot of money. Usually the cheapest option is the best one in the beginning, but I'm going to tell you what I bought so I can explain why I regret buying most of them. So when I first started, I had some really old painting supplies in my house, which were about $15. I bought the cheapest things I could find at that time, and I had a set of tempera, a set of gouache, watercolor, mixed media paper, and some paint brushes, all for $15. Obviously, price differs from place to place, but what I'm trying to say is that you can start painting with just some change. I could have painted everything I did with the supplies I already had on hand, but I still bought a lot of things I didn't need. And if you're like me, you understand that, because when I want to try out a new hobby, I have the inexplicable urge to waste a lot of money on supplies I don't need. As I said before, I was used to painting only with tempera, gouache, and watercolors, but while watching YouTube videos, I started to think about acrylics and painting on canvases, and how acrylics are the best option for me and much higher quality than what I already have. So I went online and I ordered a $13 set of acrylic paints from a well-known brand, which is Pebeo, if you know about it. If you don't know, the more established brands split their products into two categories. The first one is for beginners, and it's usually called studio category, and the other one is for artists, and sometimes it actually is called artists. I got the study set, so for beginners, but still, from where I'm from, $13 for such small tubes is quite expensive. So I expected them to be good paints, or at least better than what I had before, but when I tried them out, I was very disappointed. I didn't like the consistency and the colors at all. The drying time was very annoying. The paint wouldn't go on smoothly at all, and blending was a big issue for me. Also, I felt like my skills diminished greatly when I switched to the acrylics. I didn't understand why my hands weren't doing what I was used to them doing before. Now I know that most people prefer acrylics for their versatility and their price, but what I got was very disappointing. I am sure there are a lot of other products out there that are worth it, but for now, acrylics don't feel like the best option. As a beginner, I would say that it is better to stick to the medium you are most comfortable with, at least until you get better with your skill and your confidence. But if you've never tried any mediums before, then go for what feels like will be the most enjoyable, what sparks your interest, or what you've seen online and you really like how the paint sits on the canvas. Judge the book by its cover and go for the appealing ones, but go for the cheapest one, or at least among the cheaper options, because spending a lot of money in the beginning when you don't know how a medium feels, I would say it's not the best approach. As a beginner, you won't even feel a difference. Even experienced painters will tell you that you can paint with whatever supplies you have on hand if you know how to use them, regardless of their price. Some even paint with coffee and it looks amazing, so you shouldn't be worrying about that all that much. I split paints into three categories. I have the gouache, tempera, and watercolors in one category, then acrylics and oil. Acrylics may require some more mediums later on, while oil needs a lot of supplies and some mediums to start in the beginning. Obviously, everyone has preferences and you can spend a lot of money if you want to. Also, I wanted to add that I tried oil painting when I was younger, and it is by far my favorite. Nothing compares to how oil paint glides and feels like. But that's not an option for me right now because it is too much of a hassle with the drying time, the prices. Also, I feel like you kind of need a space for painting when you're using oil paints, which I don't have at the moment. The last thing with paints is what colors to go for, and there is a lot of advice online. Many say that one of the best approaches is to go for primary colors and mix all your colors yourself so you learn color theory very well. That means that you only need red, blue, yellow, titanium white, and probably burnt sienna to start. which seems to be simple, but even with this option, you have a multitude of colors to choose from. There are a lot of reds, blues, and yellows to choose from, and if you're in the beginning, you're probably confused as to which one to choose. Immersing yourself in all the color theory and mixing your own colors seems exciting probably, but at the same time, I would say it can be confusing for a beginner, especially since you don't really know what hues you like, how your colors should look on the paper. Do you like more muted tones, maybe more vibrant tones? In the beginning, you have no idea what you like or what you need. And also, the sets with 12 different colors seem very appealing, or at least they did for me. So what I did and what I'll continue doing is going for sets with multiple colors. I think that a 24 color set is way too excessive and can be confusing, so I would go for anything between 8 and maybe 16, but probably 12 colors is the best. After using those for a while, even if you're an absolute beginner, you are going to develop a style. You will know what hues you prefer, what red suits your liking, and so on. And I think that that's when it is better to switch to mixing your colors by yourself. I'm still painting with sets, so I can't really tell you if this is the best approach. But what I've learned is that I don't really like having only ultramarine blue. I prefer a more vibrant blue for when I'm painting water. At the same time, I prefer more warm-toned yellows, and with reds, I'm not really sure yet what I like. But I've started to have some preferences, and with time, I'm sure I will know even more what I like and what I don't. And let me say that no one will tell you that you're not an artist if you don't mix all of your paints by yourself. That's what paint sets are for, to make it more comfortable and more convenient for you to paint. So use that. But if you want to go for the primary colors and really understand color theory and do it all yourself, that is great, because you will gain a very useful skill for painting. If there is something I'm happy I splurged on, that is brushes. Good brushes prevent fits of rage and nervous breakdowns, so I want to pay more money for them. These are some of the brushes I had in the beginning, and I would say that they were quite decent, and I still use some of them now. I felt like I had too many brushes but not enough of what I need, so I also ordered a brush set from Pebeo as well, and I think it was about $12, which again is quite expensive. With this Pebeo product, I was very happy because I really liked the brushes. Before buying this set, I went in different art stores to search for very fine brushes, and I bought 2 of them. It was not what I needed, and that is because I didn't know what to look for, because I wanted a really thin but long brush so it holds a lot of paint. But I realized that only once I bought this set, because I tried the different types of paintbrushes and understood what I wanted and what I need. And if I were to just buy a few brushes in the beginning, I would probably go for 5-6 brushes if you're going to stick to canvases that are A4 or smaller than that. I really like this small angled flat brush that I've had for a very long time and I still use regularly. Before getting the long fine one, I used this one for details and it worked very well. I would also buy one large flat brush for any bigger areas you want to cover, and as I said before, one very fine long one so it holds more paint. A medium round brush is very useful, and I would also add a fan brush because you can kind of do a lot of things with it. If you want to add something to that, I would go for a medium flat brush and something good for blending. I haven't yet found something that I like for blending, but I want to buy a kabuki brush. When it comes to paper, I wouldn't really go for the cheapest one because it is quite annoying when paint bleeds through the paper and it kind of ruins the painting. So I go for mixed media paper because it is a bit less expensive. The ones my mom got me in school were good enough and they are very cheap, so you can go for that. Just make sure that the paper is on the thicker size and it doesn't bend that easily. With painting on canvases, I would advise anyone who is watching this not to do what I did, which is avoiding canvases because I was afraid I would waste them. First of all, wanting to paint on a canvas made me think about acrylics because I thought that gouache wouldn't work on canvas, which Yes, it is not the optimal option, but as a beginner, it doesn't really matter. You don't need the best option. You just need the best option you have. So painting with tempera on a canvas, if you want to try out canvases, that is completely fine. And I regret not doing that from the beginning. I was also worried about varnishes and mediums and how to best preserve your painting when I should have only focused on painting. You shouldn't worry that much, just buy some canvases and paint on them. Now I realized that I was talking about canvases when actually I am thinking about painting boards, because I didn't even consider a real canvas in the beginning, because I think that you don't really need one. You just need the feel of material you're painting on, and a painting board is just fine and much cheaper than a canvas. I went to Lidl and bought, I think, 4 of them for probably $2 or $3, which is amazing. And I was still afraid of using them because I thought I would waste them. So don't do what I did, just go buy whatever you want and use it. And any other supplies I got were kind of useless. I bought 2 sets of painting knives by mistake, but anyway, I have a lot of knives right now and I don't use them. I wanted the knives for mixing paint mainly, which they're not even that good for because they don't pick up paint neatly. They rather leave lines instead of scraping all the paint off, which is very annoying, so they're kind of useless. Another reason for buying them was using the impasto technique, as I also got modeling paste, which is a good idea and I'm probably going to use it, but for a beginner, I shouldn't have bought them. It was a waste of money and I could have used that money towards something else. But nonetheless, these products are good, but not right now. With the knives, I thought that buying plastic ones was smart because I would learn which one I prefer. If I were to buy again, I would go for one metal one, not very expensive, but one metal knife, and probably go for this model right here. I also bought Gesso, which I don't really need right now, and you probably don't either. Most painting boards and canvases you're going to buy in the beginning are already prepped. Mine are all prepped with Gesso, so I don't have a use for it right now. For mixing paint, I use this very old metal pencil case because I really like smooth and plain surfaces to mix my paint on. I don't really like the ones with dips that people usually get. A nice teacup is perfect for water, and I actually prefer a teacup because the aesthetic is nice. And I feel like a princess whenever I'm using a teacup for my water. Obviously, you can go for a mug or a bucket or whatever you want for holding water. Supplies are important, but the most important thing is that you have them, not how expensive they are. If you want it, you could just go to a supermarket and buy everything you need from there. The next and last section of this video is how to literally start painting, and there is no bad way to do it. You can paint landscapes, anime characters, random things around your house, enroll for a course, go to YouTube and search for step-by-step tutorials. There are so many options to choose from. But what I tend to do is to go overboard and start studying the skill and really wanting to polish that skill as much as I can. But that is very excessive, and as much as I like the process of immersing myself in the art universe and buying books and watching stuff on YouTube, I think that it is very stressful at some point. Every single time, without exceptions, I get overwhelmed and burned out. And the reason behind that is that I am a maniac when it comes to picking up new hobbies. Do yourself a favor and don't do what I did. Do it in a more relaxed way. After going for the crazy approach, I realized that it won't really help me all that much, so I started to think about a more healthier way to paint. If that makes any sense, I am literally crazy because I don't know why I get so worked up with everything I do, and I just want to do it as best as I can, and I want to be the best at it in the beginning. And that is not very good for my mental well-being. This was actually my first ever painting as not a kid, so not really as an adult, because I think I was 16 or something. So that was my first painting, and after that I completely stopped. When I went back to painting, as I said before, I went for the crazy approach and I started drawing and painting every day, trying to learn all the skills I could in the shortest time possible. That did help me a bit with my technique, but I got tired very quickly. Anyway, what I started with next is step-by-step tutorials on YouTube. It took me much longer than the artist I was watching, but in the end, I was happy with what I painted. It didn't guarantee a good painting, but following a step-by-step tutorial made it more probable for me to like the end result. It really helped with my motivation a lot. Now, if I was to give an advice, I would say just start with whatever feels comfortable and most appealing to you. I needed satisfaction and motivation after the crazy approach, so following tutorial was the best option for me. At some point, I wanted to paint something else, not only landscapes. I wanted to paint people and some more special sceneries. But painting from my imagination is a bit difficult, and that is not because I don't have ideas, but because what I'm imagining is way too complicated for my skill. Yeah, I could go for it anyway, which I sometimes do, but with some ideas, I prefer to only keep them in my mind until I get the skill to be proud of them when I finally paint them on paper. Apart from following step-by-step tutorials, I started looking on Pinterest for some inspiration, and I would make these type of boards. I had more options of what I wanted to paint, and I would also add my touch to it. And with this approach, I still had a guideline, which is very good for more confused beginners like me. I really like paintings that include impressive anatomy, so I went on YouTube and searched for figure drawing so I can learn better how to include that in my painting. Following those courses or tutorials were very helpful, not because now I can paint very impressive figures, but because it helped with my confidence. Painting and drawing go hand in hand most often, so you might try that as well. Also, it is less messy and more convenient sometimes. Just think about the art you appreciate and find beautiful and start stealing things from there, and once you have the skill, you are going to start developing a style you really like. I am far from being knowledgeable as a painter. I'm just trying it out and painting in my free time. But I like it a lot and thought that my short experience might be of use to some. Now just go and paint something, okay?